Hello everyone, my name is Piotr Garbachonek and today I will show you my modular setup. I'm going to be using Benn Jordan's idea of doing it from about 1 year ago. So you can find his tour in my YouTube description. On top of telling you what the module is and what it does, I will also tell you in how many % of patches I use it in and whether or not I'm selling it due to lack of usage. All the modules mentioned in the video, which I am selling, I will link in the description, which will be a link to my Reverb store so you can see for yourself and maybe pick it up from me, Hope you enjoy the video. Cheers. All right, so here we go. Most of my system is comprised to this case, which is the Pittsburgh EP-420. And if I'm making a patch, I go directly to basically this system, which has everything that I really would need to make anything. Then there's this system, which is the Blue Marvin and the Mother 32 below. And then the Pittsburgh EP-344 system, which I use sometimes. If I'm making like a huge patch, I would switch those two cases around so I have an easier access to route everything to each other. And then make a video. And then this case, which I primarily use for like if I'm performing live somewhere. And most of those modules are the ones that I don't really use as often. So let me start over here. So we start with Pamela's new workout from ALM Busy Circuits. I use this in 100% of my patches. It's always my master clock for everything. If I'm not running it from its own internal clock or internal clocks, I am slaving it from a different clock source, so I can run a different clock, and then it's gonna kind of adapt to the new one and send multiplies divisions to other things that need clock, which is very, very nice. I use this all the time. Cubic chance. I use this in about 90% of all my patches. I love this module as well. It's pretty close to Pamela's new workout, so I always clock it right here, and it's very convenient. All the outputs are really, really great. I use those for modulations all the time or triggering other oscillators. Quad ADSR from Doepfer. It's my main ADSR. I don't have any other bigger one, so I use this in about 80% of my patches. It's pretty cool because if you send gate information to the first channel, it makes it so that all four have that same output. Unless you break the connection and patch the second one in, then all of them are individual channels, which is pretty cool that they did that like that. Then I have this small 2HP ADSR. I only use it when I have like a huge self-generative patch and I don't have enough of those. Then I go to this one. And I also use this a lot when I'm traveling and I do gigs, and I don't want to have a huge quad ADSR like this, so it doesn't take up that much space. I opted for the 2HP one. So let's say I use it in like 60% of my patches. Then we have the new addition, relatively new addition. It's the quad function generator from Buchla and TipTop Audio. It's a really cool module. I'm gonna say I use it in about 50% of my patches, but I really wanna get into it more. The downside of it, I guess, is that it's just pretty big, for what it does. But because I have a lot of surplus in terms of case space, I can just put it in. But if I'm traveling, I can't take this with me to play a gig or something, unless it's absolutely necessary. So yeah, it's just an AD envelope with a possibility to modulate the CV in and CV in for attack and decay separately, with the quadrature also. And yeah, so here we have variable Q VCF from Serge by random source. I've built this module recently, and it works very, very well. I haven't quite gotten into it yet just because I just built it, but I am anticipating a lot of usage from it in the future, which is very nice. The discrete OTA VCF, which is my favorite filter of all time. It's you know, I have audio in, 2 pull out, 3 pull out, and 4 pull out, so you have different low pass filter slopes, and you can modulate the FM1 and FM2, and you have those controls over here. This I usually actually use for kick because it has a very nice sounding resonance over the control of the frequency of the cutoff of the low pass filter. And it sounds really good. Obviously, of course, as a low pass filter as well, but just happens so that I don't have any kick modules, so I just use this and the ADSR to make kicks. I use this in like 100% of my patches. I always use this. And I have 2 of them too, so they both always are used for everything. So yeah, then we move on to the Cwejman VCO-2RM. It's probably my favorite bass oscillator, or you know, I can switch it to be in LFO mode if I don't want to have 2 oscillators, and I can send output into like a multiple and have an LFO now, which is pretty great. I use this in about 80% of my patches, and I would never sell it. So let's move on to the second row, Black Hole DSP from Erica Synths, multi-effects processor, stereo as well. I use this in about 70% of my patches. I have 2 of them as well. It's probably one of my only effects processors that I have. I'm trying to get more, especially for concerts and stuff, you know, just to be able to run all of my effects in the modular rather than in the box to save processing power. But this is a pretty cool little guy. This is a passive multiple. I use it in 100% of my patches. I always need multiples because I'm splitting everything all the time. Qubit Bloom, I have 2 as well. My favorite sequencers. I use it in 100% of my patches. I always do some sort of a sequence. And this is a 2-channel sequencer. Unfortunately, they all run on the same clock. So if you clock into it from Pamela's new workout, you can't run like 2 clocks into it and have 2 different channels of sequences. But if you don't mind having the same clock and then just running it into 2 different oscillators, that is perfectly alright as well. 2 HP LFO, I use it a lot as well, maybe like 60% of my patches. I always need LFOs for a lot of things, usually to modulate parameters in different oscillators for some variation. Yeah, Qubit Tone is very useful for me when traveling. It's 4 filters, 4 channels of low pass and or band pass filter with possibility to modulate the frequency. And I use this when I'm traveling or playing gigs abroad. It's pretty big in a way. It's 18 HP, but it's 4 channels of filter. You can't go wrong with that. It's really good. Yes, I use it in 100% of my patches. I always use this as well. øchd by Divkid and Instruō, 100% of my patches. I don't go anywhere without this module. It's probably my favorite LFO. It's 4 HP and you have 8 channels of analog LFO signal. You can control the rate or CV into it. Insane, I love it. It's probably, yeah, so good. Instruō Harmonàig. It's a quantizer. I use it in about 60% of my patches. I don't have enough sequencers sometimes for larger generative patches, so I tend to run the tie sample and hold into it and then make a melody that is more random and slower that way. It's pretty cool. It's probably the most advanced quantizer that I've ever used. It's really nice. I wish I had more uses for it, like in chords or something like that, because for now I just use it in root mode and send it to a single melody unless I have 4 oscillators or something. But yeah, so that's Instruō Harmonàig. Instruō Tágh, I just picked it up pretty recently. It's a limited edition module. I don't know if it's available anymore on Instruō, but you guys can probably look it up. It's a very nice sample and hold module. It also comes with an alternative panel, so you don't have to use this one, you can switch it to a different one. Yeah, since getting it maybe 3 weeks ago, I've used it in about 90% of my patches, which is pretty good run, I would say. Yeah, and I would not sell it. The Instruō Lìon, I use it about 50% of my patches, but it's really cool, the functionality that it has. It's a 6x6 pin matrix, and you can do like stuff like feedback looping or mixing other things to other things by those pin cables, like this. Or you are given also send and return cables, so you can have a signal here outputting somewhere else, and then send something to like a delay or like a resonator, and then with that same output go back into this. So you're kind of forcing a sound onto another sound, which is pretty insane. I wish I used it more, but I really like its functionality, so I would not sell it. The Instruō Arbhar, I use this in about 80% of my patches, so very often. It's stereo, so I run usually stereo in and stereo out into the VCAs directly, and then it comes with this bus over here, so I can kind of modulate all of these parameters with a bunch of LFOs. It has a built-in condenser microphone, so I can tap into it and, you know, just be able to play with a bunch of things. And it's also, I think, 6 channels, so you can do all of that for 6 different channels, which is pretty insane. So last row of this case, mutable instruments plates, 150% of my patches. I never not use it. Because I do a lot of ambient or glitch music, I always modulate the model, which essentially changes the algorithms of this kind of randomly, which is a nice thing to achieve if you want to go for something, you know, glitchy and stuff. So yeah, plates, 100% of my patches would never sell it. In fact, I'm trying to get another one. Mutable elements, it's a very complex modal synthesizer. Anything from strings, plucky things, flutes, or guitar, and literally any instrument, you can probably make it on this. It's stereo as well, and gate into it, strength, FM, 1 volt per octave, has about everything, and you can of course modulate all the parameters right there, just for, you know, differentiation and variation over time. Really very cool. I use it in about I don't know, 50% of my patches, but I love it to death, so I'm never gonna sell it. This is Lynx, which is like a utility module. I use it in about 100% of my patches because I'm always running out of Mults in this case. So I always use 1 split to 3 or 2 split to individual ones if I need to carry a signal somewhere further. Ripples is a liquid filter with VCA built in, and I use it in actually quite a bit of my patches. I would say 60%, and it has possibility to modulate the frequency, resonance, FM, and the gain. So I tend to use it if I'm in this ecosystem of mutable instruments. I would usually patch plates into it just for the ease of use. So yeah, then we have clouds, which I use in 100% of my patches. You can modulate most of the parameters. It's also stereo in and out. There's a lot of algorithms. You can do a different firmware, which is like an alternate firmware, like Parasites or something. I didn't do that, but I used this factory built-in one, and it's really great. I'm considering getting another one. Then there is rings, which is kind of like a guitar plucky thing, similar to Elements, a little bit condensed, and it's also a resonator, so you can route something into it and then with other even harmonics out somewhere else. So you can either use it as an oscillator or as an effect, which is pretty nice. I use this also all the time and about like 90% of my patches, so never selling it. Maths is like a utility module, but at the same time it does everything in a way if you know how to use it properly. You can do like cycling functions and have LFOs, or you can have an ADR envelope or a 4-channel mixer with summing outputs over there. It's pretty insane. I think it's also an oscillator in some way. I recently found a way to use it as a sidechain compressor for if you have a kick and bass and you wanna make it sound better if it's coming in together in one signal. So that's what I've been using for a lot of things. And there's the TipTop, this is the VCA section. All of this is outputted into the multi-track mixer that's below. There's a TipTop VCA, Quad VCA from Intellijel, and Quad VCA from Mutable Instruments into Veils. I use those, all of them, in 100% of my patches. Yeah, I always use like as many outputs as possible, and you can never have too many VCAs. Obviously, I'm looking for more. Now we move on from the big case into this other smaller case, which is, well, it's a 8U, I think. I could be wrong. Blue Marvin from Behringer. It's a really good semi-modular synthesizer. I use it in about, let's say 30% of my patches, but I love it. I'll never sell it. It's pretty cool. Then we have Scrat from Neutral Labs, which I've built just a few days ago. It's very powerful Steiner Parker filter. I haven't used it that much yet, but in terms of videos, but I use it a lot for sound design, just because of its resonance capabilities. It's very cool. Then we have the Intellijel µMidi, which is my main MIDI to CV converter from a computer, so I can run anything that I really want monophonically and then record it into my interface or into my mixer. Then there's and I use this in like 30% of my patches, but that really depends on the video that I'm making. Mother 32, I am considering selling. I haven't really used it at all. It just doesn't agree with my workflow. So you might see it on the Reverb store. Otherwise, you know, it's a pretty cool full voice synthesizer with a 32-step sequencer that's built in. But yeah, I just don't use it as much as I would like it to. So, alright, moving on from this case, we're gonna move on to this one. Actually, let's go to this one. This one is doesn't not have power. It's just for modules that I don't have in other cases. Or in terms of this one, this is still under construction. When I power it on, the screen doesn't turn on, so I have to fix it. This was initially a DIY kit and it's still in progress. So hopefully it gets fixed sometime soon. And then these are just blanks that are not in the main cases. So now we go to the Pittsburgh EP-344 case. There's a Moog DFAM, which I use a lot actually for like a glitch drums. Not necessarily for kick and snare, but for glitchy drums it's pretty cool. I would never sell it. I use it in about 60% of my patches. Black Hole DSP, the other one that I was just mentioning in the first case. I use this also a lot. A118 noise generator from Doepfer. I never use it, so I'm selling it. Initially bought it for a sample and hold if I wanted to do that, but then I got TIE from Instruō, so I never find a way to integrate it into my patches, so I just don't use it. 2144 low pass filter from Electro Smith, which was a kit and I also built. That's available in the top corner here if you want to check it out, the full build video. It's a really cool filter. I use it a lot. Yeah. René, which is a circadian rhythm sequencer. I use it in about 40% of my patches, but when I do use it, it's very cool sounding. A sequential switch, I barely use it, but I might keep it just if I wanna then in the future do more generative patches that are like 2 or 3 hours long. Just for the variety that it provides. Sample and hold 2 HP module I'm selling just because I never use it. It's 2 channels of sample and hold, which is pretty nice over the TIE, which only has 1, but still, you know, pretty cool module. Deckard's voice, I use it in about 60% of my patches. I love Deckard's voice. It's like the closest thing that you can get to a CS80 without spending 100 grand on CS80. But it's really nice sounding. I totally recommend it. Then there's Wogglebug, which I got recently, and I don't use it as much as I would like to. So it may be on the store, or may not be. I don't know. I haven't decided yet. Yeah, we'll see. Then there's Expert Sleepers Disting Mark IV. I never used this module, even though it's 80 algorithms in one module. I just, you know, it's hard to menu dive a lot if you're trying to make something very quickly and not want to run out of ideas. So I'm gonna sell this one as well. Then there's Subharmonicon from Moog, which I use in like 80% of my patches. I use it all the time. It's my main chord generator. I usually send clock into it because I like how slow you're able to trigger some of the chords. For example, like once every 2 minutes, which is pretty crazy. But it's really nice. It has very nice built-in oscillators and the sub oscillators for subharmonics. Very cool. Black stereo mixer from Erica Synths. I never use it. This will be on the website for sale. Very cool module. It's 4 channels of stereo mixing and then 2 stereo outputs, and you can have a level control for all the 4 inputs. Then there's the low pass gate. I never use it. It's passive, but it's cheap to the point that it's probably not worth selling, so I'm probably gonna keep it or not, we'll see. Then there's a Normal from Neutral Labs, which I've also built. It works beautifully. Whenever I make any crazy bass, I always run it through here. It's a very crazy distortion that you can also modulate a bunch of things, so I will always keep it. Then there is Marbles, which I haven't quite gotten into yet, but I know I will because it's really good for generative music. So I will definitely get more into it. I'm not selling it. I'm only using it about 10% of my patches right now, but I know that will change soon. Beads, it's many people say it's like Clouds 2.0. It has a lot of the same functionality plus a little bit more, but I always found it a little bit easier to use Clouds. So I am gonna keep it just for another sake of texture and like layers for sounds, but I will try to utilize it more in my future patches for sure. Morphing Terrarium, it's a really cool oscillator. I just don't really use it just because I have so many. It's pretty nice overall, but it's gonna be in the store with this Manhattan analog expander, which is kind of like only for that. So both will be available on my Reverb store. Then there's Forbidden Planet from TipTop Audio. It's a very cool and compact multi-mode filter with high pass, band pass, and low pass modes with modulation and capabilities. Very cool. Whenever I'm traveling, I always use this filter if I need multi-mode options. Mixup, I don't really use it just because I have VCAs, so it might be listed on the site. It's pretty nice. 2 HP Mult, use it all the time, 100% of my patches. Great module. Echophone, I don't use it enough to make sense of keeping it, but I will decide. I'm not sure yet. I use it about 40% of my patches, maybe. I am in need of something that's more like a maybe a phone or like this Modus VCO or something like that. I'm not quite vibing with how this sounds yet, so maybe I'll keep it, maybe I'll do more experiments, but you will see it in the description maybe. So here is the last case, which is the Intellijel case. All the top modules are 1U, and I'm gonna keep them. I use them a lot actually if I'm doing any traveling and playing gigs. This reverb over here, which is, it sounds alright, but again, it's very small footprint, so I might sell it, I might keep it, you'll see it maybe. A passive multiple, noise tools, which is like a bunch of things that like utilitarian stuff that only take up 1 U, which is nice. Buffered multiple, which is nice for carrying LFO and clock signals without any loss in time. And then the output, and then that goes in the back of the case to output into the anything that you want. So here we go. Other multiple, I use it a lot. Cloud generator, very cool module. I use it in about 60% of my patches. Sometimes I run a controller into it and play directly from it, like on the keys and stuff. It's really, really nice, and I like how you can modulate the spread and the chaos of the Celtic waves, because then that creates a very metallic sound, which is very, very cool. 2 HP ARP, I bought this, I tried it twice and I haven't used it since, like 2 or 3 years ago. It's pretty nice, but like again, I don't, this will be on the site. TipTop MISO, I never use it. I bought this as it was my 3rd or 4th module that I ever got, but I never found ways to utilize it in anything that I make. So I am gonna sell this as well. Warps, it's pretty cool for the functionality that it has, but again, I never use it. So this will also be for sale. They've discontinued this module a while ago, and Eurorack is going out of business in the first place. So kind of sad to let it go, but again, it might be better for me to switch to something that I'm actually gonna use rather than have this just sit and collect dust in this case, you know. Another mix-up, this might also be for sale, or I might keep one over the other, we'll see. Muta Jovis from Noise Engineering, this will also be for sale. I don't really use mutes for anything. I was considering it for a while, but then again, I just use VCAs for controlling all my signals, and I do prefer a more steady approach to controlling the volume rather than all at once just cut it off. So I might sell this as well. 12 dB SAM filter from Doepfer, never use it, I have other filters, so this will also be for sale. Dual oscillator from Buchla and TipTop. I don't use it as much as I would like to, but I'm not gonna sell it just for because I want to get into it more in the future. Well, maybe put it in a bigger case or something. So this I'm keeping, but I use it in like 20% of my patches. Then there's this big guy, which is the quad morphing VCO from Synthesis Technology. It's four oscillators, and you can customize the waveforms for each, or use different ones and modulate a bunch of things. I don't use it as much as I would like to, but I am gonna keep it still. It's very, very cool for what it can do. If I want to send Harmonàig into it and to make chords, I can totally do that. It's gonna be a very easy patch in that regard. So I am keeping it. Qubit Nebulae, I am selling it. I can never get it to work for some reason. It is working, I just have to like do a firmware update and get some patches loaded onto it, but I never have time for that because I'm always busy. So I might get some sampler or some other granular sampler like Morphogene that maybe will, you know, work most of the time. Music Thing Modular, microphone. I use this sometimes, I built it. It's probably one of my first modules that I've built. It's pretty cool. You can like, you know, attach it, scrub it, whatever, and send CV signal to control some things. Neutral Labs Meg, which is a wave shaper that I've also built myself. It's very cool as well, but I use it in about 10% of my patches. I don't have that much use for wave shapers right now. Maybe in the future that will change, but we will see. And then we have a Wasp filter from Doepfer. I never use it. So this will also be available on Reverb for sale. So yeah, that's about it for all the cases. Yeah, and thanks so much for watching. I might make videos in the future about how I record everything and how yeah, of course, the courses are coming soon. I'm still working on them. I want them to be really, really good for y'all. So yeah, with that, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Cheers.